to in a moment. We also have a legal expert, just reacting to what former President Jacob Zuma said during this particular address. We have Ulrich Roux, who is joining us via Skype. A very good evening to you, Mr. Roux. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the Globe.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having me.
Now, this case is getting more complex by the day, Ulrich, and it suffices to mention that should the outcome be in Zuma's favour, it will be quite unprecedented, I would say, given the Constitutional Court's stature. What are your thoughts?
Yes, definitely. It's certainly becoming quite complicated as every day goes by. What we do know now at the moment from a legal perspective is that there are two applications that have been launched by Jacob Zuma. The first is an application to rescind the judgment of the Constitutional Court, and the Constitutional Court has elected to entertain that application, and it will be heard on the 12th of July. And then the second application is an application to the Pietermaritzburg High Court, in which Jacob Zuma seeks to have the order by the Constitutional Court stayed in order that in other words, that he should not be arrested pending the outcome of his rescission application before the Constitutional Court. So those are the two applications that he has issued. And yes, as matters stand at the moment, and purely again from a legal perspective, the Constitutional Court order that he was supposed to hand himself over today still stands. The Minister of Police and the Police Commissioner has 3 days within which to arrest him should he not hand himself over today, because it is an application for rescission of judgment. It is not an appeal which automatically stays the order, and one would have to wait and see how the Minister of Police and the Police Commissioner react, and whether they will be acting in accordance with the constitutional order that was handed down on Tuesday, and that is still binding.
And again, I ask you, Ulrich Roux, about the other case. Should it go in Zuma's favour, this will surely start a legal precedent for subsequent cases. It will be quoted as a legal precedent for the other cases. So if that happens, for argument's sake, will it not erode the Constitutional Court's position as the apex court of the land?
Yes, definitely. I'm very surprised that the Constitutional Court is even entertaining Jacob Zuma's application for rescission of their judgment. And just to give background to that, remember that the application to hold Jacob Zuma in contempt of court was heard in April of this year. 11 judges of the Constitutional Court considered that application. They weighed all of the legal points pertaining thereto, and they reached a majority decision that he is indeed in contempt of the Constitutional Court order, and that he should serve a period of imprisonment as a result of his contempt. The Constitutional Court has now indicated that they are willing to entertain his application. So in effect, and to put it in layman's terms, the Constitutional Court is effectively now doubting its own judgment, which it took 3 months to hand down. So certainly it will be a very, very unprecedented order should they set aside their own order. And, speaking to a lot of other people in the legal fraternity, it is a very serious decision that the Constitutional Court needs to take. It will be a landmark ruling, and it will be a ruling which will determine whether the Constitutional Court should still be considered as our apex court, as you correctly pointed out. We are sitting with a decision now where after 3 months of deliberation an order was made, and now based on the application launched by Jacob Zuma, they are considering whether to set that order aside. So it will be a landmark ruling, and certainly a very important ruling for the future of this country.
It certainly will be an important ruling for the future of the country. And having said that, the Constitutional Court Judge, Justice Sisi Kampebe, said that there is a real and imminent risk that a mockery will be made of the Constitutional Court and all the judicial processes in the eyes of the public. And if they do not show the seriousness of Zuma's breach, then it would plunge the integrity of the court into deeper waters. It seems that the court is now backtracking from that position by allowing Zuma to apply to a much lower court to rescind its decision.
Yes, so upon applying to the Constitutional Court has a decision to make whether to even entertain that application or not. And in this instance, the court could have dismissed his application from the outset, could have simply said that we do not believe that there's any merit in your application, and we dismiss it, and the order made on Tuesday still stands. And as you correctly point out, the Jacob Zuma has been granted so many opportunities to address the court properly, to file the necessary affidavits, to state his version before court, and to purge his contempt. Remember that all this man had to do to purge his contempt was to go and testify in front of the Commission of State Inquiry, the same commission that he created. And he elected not to do so. He elected to pen a letter in which he criticized the Constitutional Court. The Constitutional Court has now handed down that order, and now yet again the country finds itself holding its breath, waiting for the Constitutional Court, who has yet again given Jacob Zuma another opportunity. So it's certainly concerning from a legal perspective, because the Constitutional Court is supposed to be our absolute authority on legal questions and on how the law should be applied. This man had a flagrant disregard for the law. He laughed in the face of the Constitutional Court. He criticized the court, and he's now being given another opportunity. So yes, it will be interesting to see how far they are willing to take this. And secondly, his application to the High Court in Pietermaritzburg, in my view, and in the view of numerous other legal minds within our industry, is that it has absolutely no jurisdiction whatsoever. They are essentially asking a High Court to make an order pertaining to a Constitutional Court order and to overrule a Constitutional Court order. So there is absolutely no jurisdiction for them to bring that application, and that should be the answer of the High Court on Tuesday.
Yeah. And remember that he's been found guilty of civil contempt and not criminal contempt. So will this perhaps not raise the bar for him, or rather for allowing him to deal with that kind of contempt?
Yes, remember, contempt of court proceedings are interesting because it has both a civil aspect as well as a criminal aspect to it. Civil contempt is if you are held if you are found to be in contempt of court, then a civil ruling could be made against you, which is a suspended sentence that gives you opportunity to purge that contempt. So in other words, you need to rectify the situation so that you are no longer in contempt of court. The difficulty for Zuma is that if you are held to be in willful contempt of a court order, then criminal proceedings do play a role, because then you can receive a criminal sanction. And that is exactly what the Constitutional Court ordered in this matter. They found him to be in complete willful contempt of a Constitutional Court order, and accordingly, the only sentence that could be handed down is a sentence of imprisonment, because he has been granted so many opportunities to answer to the allegations that he is in contempt of court, to file his answering papers. The court even invited him to advance reasons in mitigation of his sentence should he be found in contempt of court, and he elected not to do so. In his rescission application now, he claims all kinds of defenses. He says that his health played a big role, his finances played a big role, yet he never elected to advance any of those defenses when he was requested to do so, both by the Constitutional Court as well as by the Commission. So that is the difficulty that he is faced with. As a result of his willful contempt, the criminal sanction did come into play. We've heard his legal team saying that they want to, in fact, enforce a change of the Criminal Procedure Act so that these proceedings can have more clarity. But one would have to wait and see whether the court entertains that or not.
Yeah, and having said that, I mean, Judge Theron with Judge Jafta concurring. Come again, Ulrich? No, just picking up on this point that we've just made, a short while ago, Judge Theron, who had Judge Jafta concurring, said that Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo should have applied criminal proceedings as prescribed by the National Commissions Act. So, in simple terms, what does that mean?
Well, we've heard a lot of noise about the minority judgment in this matter. Remember that the Constitutional Court has 11 judges who sits on the bench. It is very seldom that you see a complete majority judgment. So in other words, 11 judges who agree with each other.
Yeah.
In this instance, 9 judges agreed that he should be sentenced to jail, whilst 2 judges said that he should not receive a criminal sanction. But the fact of the matter is that the majority judgment is the judgment which receives, the absolute authority. The minority judgment is penned, but it does not mean anything. So that is the comment on that.
All right, Ulrich Roux, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time. All right, that was a legal analyst and legal expert, Ulrich Roux, joining us via Skype to share his, his thoughts and his reflections on the developments coming out of Nkandla in KwaZulu-Natal. And